Kevin McCarthy wants some sort of, flexibility on the part of the president to tie raising the debt ceiling to spending or addressing spending. The president equally adamant that the two should not be tied. But they have kind of been tied in the past. So what do you think happens?
I think we should listen to Jerome Powell. I mean, he's kind of independent. I don't always agree with him, but he's saying you raise the debt ceiling, you raise it in a timely manner. I don't understand why we're debating this. We gave President Trump a debt ceiling raise 3 times. We pay our debts in this country. And then I'm happy to have the conversation about spending cuts, tax raises. Let's have that conversation after we pay our debts.
There was an issue in 2011 where we did things a little bit differently, as you know, Congressman, where, President Obama at that time had entertained, looking down the road at some adjustments. So Democrats were open to, discretionary spending cuts. Republicans proved open to some defense cuts, or at least when I say cuts, slowing down in the growth of both. It was a clumsy and bumbling affair, but they avoided a shutdown. Now, what do you think happens here?
I think we end up paying our debts. I mean, first of all, constitutionally, it's unclear that we could actually even default. The Congress has authorized and appropriated the money already in addition to the debt ceiling. So if this goes to the courts, my view is that the Treasury can pay debts that we've incurred. If we want to afterwards have a conversation, I've said I'm open to some strategic defense cuts. We could talk about, I think we should be raising taxes on the very wealthy. And we could have that conversation. If they want to talk about Social Security, I'm for increasing benefits. They may want to cut it. Let's have all of that conversation after we pay our debts.
We did get our credit downgraded in that aforementioned 2011 year. Not so much because we ever defaulted or even got close, but because of all the craziness ahead of it, where at the time, S&P decided, this is weird, and they knocked us from a AAA credit rating. The irony was that money still found its way here. The dollar remains the haven currency for the world. None of that's changed. But do you worry coming close will eventually jeopardize that?
I do. Look, we're the greatest economy in the world. We're the greatest country in the world. Where would you want to put your money? You're not going to put it in Russia. You're not going to put it in China. You want to put it in France or with the European growth rates? Come on. I mean, you're going to put it in the United States. But we've been handed this extraordinary economy because of our entrepreneurs, because of our workers, because of 200 years of sacrifices. Why in Congress are we playing Russian roulette? Why are we trying to mess it up? Just pay the debts. Make sure we're keeping this country strong, and then we can debate the finances.
Let me ask you a little bit about something you've been working on, because flyers, once again, were frustrated this week. Thousands of flights were delayed because of this cold winter snap throughout much of the South and the central part of the country. You're trying to, protect passengers through this sort of thing. Could you explain what you're working on?
Well, it's pretty simple. When you have to change your reservation and sometimes you get a $150 fee, or if you have an extra carry-on and then the airlines fleece you with a $100 fee, we're saying those airlines, they can charge, but they can't charge unreasonable fees. They can charge the cost to them. So if there's some cost to changing the reservation or cost to having you carry an extra carry-on, fine, but not these crazy fees that they're charging. But the most important thing is these flight cancellations. I mean, Senator Sanders and I called months ago, as had Democratic attorney generals, for fines for flight cancellations. President Obama had those kind of fines for delays on tarmacs. I hope the Department of Transportation will act so that we don't have these kind of debacles again.
But we invariably do. Now, a lot of them, right to your point, Congressman, are weather-related, and you can't really control that. And they do give vouchers to flyers. Not all of them. I would have to look back to see how many get that. But it is a hassle for a lot of Americans who thought that the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, would assure that they would be protected in such events. That's why I was surprised by some of the legislation you're working on, because I thought he already did.
Well, he hasn't. I like him, but he has not instituted significant fines for cancellations. The only airlines that were fined were foreign airlines, a few of them, and there have not been fines yet or a regulation saying you can't have excessive fees for things like carry-on baggage or reservation changes. we need to look out for the passengers. And I don't think if you travel, I mean, I take flights all the time. I'm sure you do too, Neil. Most people right now aren't very happy with the travel. And so we've got to be far more assertive as the Department of Transportation and government.
So are you disappointed in the Transportation Secretary? Hasn't done enough?
Well, not on a personal basis, but I think he should look to what President Obama's Department of Transportation did, where they had stiff fines for idling on the tarmac, and it changed behavior. And if we had stiff fines for flight cancellations, that would incentivize Southwest to take care of its IT system. And if we made it clear that these airlines can't fleece consumers, that would make a difference. So I hope he defers more to looking out for consumer interests and not just listening to the airlines.
You sound disappointed.
I want action.
Okay, understood. Let me switch gears because I know you are going to be serving a role on a crucial China Select Committee, and this is something you had wanted. Could you explain?
I do. First of all, I have great confidence in our chair, Mike Gallagher. He's a Marine. He's from Wisconsin. I think he's going to do a superb job. I'm looking forward to serving with him. We've got two objectives. One, we've got to rebalance trade with China. We offshored way too many of our jobs, our factories to China. It was a colossal mistake. We want to bring that production back, and China needs to stop the currency manipulation and these massive trade deficits. Two, we need to make sure that Taiwan is secure. I mean, China has crossed the median line. They've launched missile tests across Taiwan airspace. We've got to get serious about that, and I think these can be bipartisan issues on this committee.